Political correctness has reared its ugly head again. Little place in the city of Bristol in the UK goes by the name of the Colston Hall. It's a music venue. Some pretty big acts have been there over the years, such as AC/DC, Bob Marley and the Wailers, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Eurythmics, Led Zeppelin. The list goes on of influential acts to play there, and also Atomic Kitten. So, political correctness and a music venue. What's up with that? Well, it's the name that's the issue. It's named after a guy called Edward Colston, born in 1636 and died in 1721. He was a pretty influential figure in Bristol, a very wealthy man, who also ensured schools were built for some of the poorest children in the city. Their streets named after him. Even his birthday is celebrated by some with a Colston's Day, and they bake a special bun. And cleverly enough, they call it a Colston bun, inspired. However, whilst he made a lot of money as a merchant and as a member of Parliament, a lot of it was also made as a slave trader, and as you can imagine, it's the slavery part that gets people worked up. Understandable for sure. I think every right-minded person thinks slavery is abhorrent. However, it's all rather too easy to view the actions of the past with the sense of morality and justice we have today without taking into account just how differently the world was nearly 300 years ago. Edward Colston was a deeply religious man, as most people were back then, and he would have been guided, as most people were, by the Bible. The same book that guided Edward Colston also guided him on how to treat slaves. A cursory glance at Colossians 4:1, Ephesians 6:9, and Deuteronomy 15 verses 12 through 15 are what he and others of his time would have used to justify what they did. That's no excuse by today's standards, of course, but the world was a very different place back then. Today, slavery is illegal. 300 years ago, it was as legal as getting married. It's important, I feel, to point out that the very same book that Edward Colston and the world at large used as their guide in life is still used today, virtually unchanged. What Edward Colston did with his money is what sets him apart from most of the men of his time. He was a philanthropist. He used that money to set up schools for the poor and almshouses, which was a charitable funded homes for poor people and the elderly, and it even contributed strongly towards hospitals. Whatever we might think of slavery today, 300 years ago, Edward Colston was seen as a very decent man, a very charitable man, and a man that did so much for Bristol, the city he called his home. So I find it more than a little sad that the Colston Hall is to rename itself in the very near future because of his links to slavery over 300 years ago. Without Colston, there would have been no Colston Hall, the site originally being one of his schools that he gifted to Bristol. Yes, I accept that slavery is unacceptable, but times were very different back then, and to judge a society with today's sense of justice and morality is a little unfair. I also find it hard to accept that people are so willing to brush out the history of a place or a person simply because it doesn't fit with their view. It's as important to not forget our past, so children and the younger generations can see mankind's progressed, the mistakes we made, the changes in attitude and the lessons we learned. I see no reason to gloss over Edward Colston's lesser appealing aspects while denying some of the real good things he did in his lifetime. Such a shame that political correctness has won the day on this occasion. To err is human, and we should never forget that.